Hey there team, thanks for tuning back in again. This is the second part in a video series where I'm looking at how you can go about using multiple Tim's tools together in order to balance your video or make adjustments. So we're looking at the Ultra Balancer tool and Super Skin Tones, links in the description below. In the first part we looked at Adobe Premiere and we looked at using them in an adjustment layer workflow. What we're going to do in the second part is look at Vegas Pro and how you might go about using them with track FX based workflow. So this is Vegas Pro 17. It's not absolutely the newest version, but the techniques that I'm going to be showing here should work for a reasonably wide range of Vegas Pro versions. So let's get started. I've got a couple of clips here on the timeline. Now I've picked clips that I haven't used before because I want to just demonstrate that these tools will work over a wide range of different clips. And what we're going to do is we're going to firstly color balance them using Ultra Balancer, and then we're going to use Super Skin Tones to make sure that the skin tones are good along with the rest of the image. There's a variety of ways that you can go about doing this in Vegas Pro. This is probably the simplest, but obviously depending on what you're used to within Vegas, you can adapt these for your own way of working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the main Project FX, which is up the top here. Actually, I can magnify that. This little icon here, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to add the Vegas LUT filter. Now if you're using an older version of Vegas, you may need to acquire a separate LUT plugin. There's one from a company called Vision Color, which has worked quite well, but this is built in to the last versions of Vegas, I think since about 15. You can also add LUTs within the color grading panel, which I'm not going to get into today, but it's possible to do if you prefer to do it that way. So we've got the LUT filter there, and that's just sitting there currently doing nothing. I'm going to click browse and I'm going to add the Ultra Balancer to that, and you can see right away the clip has changed. Just for the time being I'm going to turn that off, but now we know it's there. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to grab part of this clip where there is something nice and neutral in here. You have to be a little bit careful with clouds and things. They are not always a neutral color. They can sometimes have a bit of a cast about them. So we'll look for something else. And I know towards the end of this clip you can see there's a boat in the background, which was most likely white, appearing in the background there. So if I turn on this LUT filter, you can see that the boat is coming out yellow. So that's what the Ultra Balancer is doing. It's telling me that we need to move the overall color tone in the direction of yellow in order to correctly white balance this shot. So how do we go about doing that? Well, if you look at your clip itself, you can see there's another one of these little FX icons. I'm going to click on that, and there's lots of ways that I could approach this. In my case, I'm going to actually just use two of these secondary color correctors, and I'll show you why in a moment. The first one is going to be for my main color balance, and the second one is going to be for my skin tone correction. So I've just double clicked to add those, and those are both added to the clip itself. So we still have the Ultra Balancer tool appearing on the entire shot, and when we make an adjustment here, it will be passed through to the Ultra Balancer tool and we'll get the feedback on what's happening. So the reason why I chose this color corrector secondary is that this has got a nice big offset wheel in it, which means that I can color balance the entire image. The other color correctors, including the standard color corrector in Vegas, is broken down into highs, mids and lows, or lift gamma gain if you like, in order to adjust those things independently, and that's fine, but for our purposes this will work probably a little bit more easily. So as you can see, we've got to make the boat go white, so I've got to head in the direction of yellow, and you'll see it starts to change, and it's gone magenta, so a bit green. So I'm basically just sort of massaging this until I get to a happy spot where it's, you know, about as white as it can be, which is somewhere around there. You can, the nice thing about this tool is that you can really adjust it according to how white you want it to be. If you still want a little bit of coolness or a little bit of warmth in the image, then you can retain all of that as well. It's not going to be it's going to give you some flexibility. Right, so I've gone about that change, and I can go back into the main Project FX, and I can turn off the ultra balancer there. And just for reference, that was our before and our after. So now if we want to go and make the changes to the skin tones, the first thing we need to do is we need to isolate the skin tones. So I'm going to click back on my event FX, and I'm now going to go to the second color corrector in here, and now I'll use the filtering tool in here. So I'll click select effect range and just select roughly some skin tones. Use the show mask to see what I've selected, and then I can refine it using these tools here. So you can see I can bring in a little bit more, I can smooth out these changes. So really, I mean, this is just a matter of having a bit of a play, and obviously it's not, it's more of an art than a science. So I'm not going to get too hung up on the details there. That's probably okay for our particular purposes, but depending on how important your shot is, you can mess around with this as much as you like. So I'll turn off the mask, and we're still working within this second FX here. We're going to go back up to our color wheel, and now we need to know which direction we should be going in on the color wheel, and that's where super skin tones will come in. So I'll go back to my project FX, I'm going to turn that on, but I'm going to change it to super skin tones. And you see with super skin tones, now pretty much the rest of the shot looks okay, but the skin tones themselves have got a slight hint of green about them. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make that as bright green as possible where the skin tones are. So I'm back in my second effect here, and whichever way I go, you can sort of see the color will change. So I just want to head in the direction of where I'm getting essentially the most green out of their skin. So it's probably around about there. Obviously, if you go too far, if you go too green, it will make them go green. So that's not the effect that we are going for. We just want to make sure that we are feeding into this tool, and the tool is giving us an indication that that the color is correct. All right, so that is done. If I go back here and turn off that filter, that's our sort of balanced image. Now if I go in here, I can show you where we came from and where we got to. This was our original shot, and then we used ultra balancer to color balance the overall shot, and then we made the changes to the skin tones. Now hopefully that is visible on YouTube. I'll show you again with one other shot just to share. Yeah, we can go through it a little bit more quickly. So we've got this other shot here of Grumpy Ballet Dancer. So we're going to do essentially the same thing. We'll start off with the ultra balancer. So I've put that, this has remained on the entire project. We'll turn that on, and we basically just need to choose something that we want to be a neutral color within this shot. And there's a few different options. I could pick the light from outside, but I think actually I might pick this panel on the wall here, just in case there's different lighting inside than out. So we need to head in the direction, as you can see, of sort of orange and a bit of magenta. So I'm going to go to my FX on the clip, and I'm going to do the same thing. 2 color corrector secondaries. First one is going to be our color balance, and I'll just move that. Now I'm holding control to just give me a little bit more control over it. Alright, so somewhere probably around about there. That's fine, and we can turn off a lot to see before and after. Before and after, so you can see that's warmed up that shot quite a lot. And now I will go back in here, and we're going to go to our second corrector, and we're going to select just her skin tones. more or less. Obviously this is a slightly tricky image because the wall is effectively the same as her skin tones, and we're going to do something along those lines. I'm not going to get too hung up on the wall because actually it's very close to the skin tones anyway, and I don't want to lose too much in the way of skin tones. So something like that is probably okay for our purposes. It doesn't need to be absolutely precise for what we're doing here. So now I will turn off the mask. We'll go back up here to our project effects and choose super skin and turn that on. Alright, and you can see this has picked up quite a lot of green because it's looking at the entire shot, but our adjustment, which was back here, is only going to affect her skin tones. So that's what we're primarily looking at. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to make little adjustments until her skin tones are about as green as they can be, somewhere around about there. And we will turn off the filter, and we've gone from the original shot to the finished shot, and just for reference, these were the two steps. Turn that off and turn that off. So that was our original. Then we made the white balance correction, and you can see it probably added a little bit more magenta into her skin than we would have liked, and then we've improved it a little bit more. So hopefully that is visible on YouTube, and hopefully that has been helpful for Vegas users. Thanks for watching, and check out the links in the description below.